Howdy folks, John here. Review day today. We're going to be looking at another soldering station, the FX-951. Been getting lots of questions on this, so I want to thank Banggood for sending it so we can have a look at it. Before getting to the review, for any of those of you who follow my channel, you know I'm a pretty big fanboy of these KSG T12 soldering stations. This is my first one. This is the 2.1 version. Had it over 2 years now, and it's just been working a treat. And like everyone says, once you've used these direct drive tips, these cartridge style tips, heating element, sensor built right into the tip, very efficient, incredibly quick heat up times. You know, it'll bring the station, when you first power it on, up to 350 Celsius in around 10 to 12 seconds. It maintains the temperature so well, and it responds so quickly. Just an amazing little station. And the price, you know, here in Canada about 70 bucks, in the US 60, you know, so we're paying roughly, you know, the same price as a little low-grade hobby station for really quite a pro style station with lots of features and safety built in. They're not perfect. For anyone who's seen those reviews knows there's a few little problems with them, but they're easy to rectify and they just are a treat to use. Now this thing, like I said, I've been getting lots of questions on it. Is it worth the extra 40 bucks or so? Here in Canada, around 120 for this one, and in the States, around 100. And you'll immediately see that it is a direct copy or clone of the Hakko FX-951, which here in Canada, you know, ranges from $350 to $400. In the States, you know, maybe $280 to $325, somewhere in there. So roughly a third of the price. Is it a third as good? Well, we're going to find out. One of the first things I noticed with the solder station is the input voltage, 220 volts AC. It doesn't say it's universal voltage like we know the little Kescher T12s are. So we're going to see if this works on 110 as well. And we'll open it up at the end of the video if you want to stick around to see what's inside. But I am curious if it's dual voltage. So it comes with a set of instructions. All in Chinese. So we're going to have to figure this out by experimentation. Oh, this is nice. It comes with a tip changer, a little silicone pad. That is something the KSG ERs don't come with. I had to make my little own, but these are great because one of the benefits with T12 tips, these direct drive tips, is you can safely change them on the fly to put a different tip in. And this just allows you to grab the tip when it's hot to change it. So it's nice that it comes with that. What else is in here? Oh, some little rubber feet, I guess, to put on the bottom of the unit. Power cord. Again, there's the 220 plug with a standard C13 end. Computer cable type plug. We'll try it with just a standard North American one though to see if it works as well. Comes with one T12 tip. It's the K knife tip. I'm not a huge fan of these for the type of work I do in RC. And you know, one of my most used tips obviously are wedges. I use them the most. I will use conicals from time to time. And knives are nice if you're doing some reflow work on boards. But in my opinion, it would be better if these shipped with a wedge or a chisel tip over a knife. But I think most people who would be buying this would probably be getting a T12 tip set. You know, these don't cost that much. That's what's great. And you can pick up the tip sets. I'll fire a link below in the description as well for those if you wanted to check them out. And of course, there will be one for this station. As far as the soldering handle or iron that comes with it, what's this little doodad? Don't scratch or bend the card. Programming card, maybe? Anyway, the soldering iron or handle is the 9501 same one that comes with the KSGER, and I quite like this handle. It's nice and small, it's well balanced, a nice silicone grip on it. This is by far my favorite handle in all these T12 stations. There's various versions. You know, here's another type, which is still nice, but I like this one the best, so it's nice to see it ships with that. And the actual iron holder, which this one comes with. The KSGER T12s, you have to buy the iron holder separately. You know, and these are about 15 bucks. So they're not that much, but there is a little extra value there with this one. As we can see, it's the exact same one. And I really like this holder. It works quite well. I'll get that properly assembled. These hold the FX-951 handles quite well. You can see it just fits in there nicely, grips it really well. Has a little sponge, yeah, pretty crappy. I like brass shavings myself. And you can get little silos to put in there with the brass shavings. And that's about it. So the station, it uses an actual DIN input, unlike the KSGERs, which use a GX aviation connector. So that's a little bit different. And instead of the encoder and push button wheel on the T12s, we get push buttons to dial everything up and down. Power button is on the top, which is nice. It's not on the back. On a benchtop unit, it's nice to have easy access to the power switch. There's our C14 computer plug or power plug in the back. Again, 220 volt. It is fuse protected here. Get this out. Oh, there we go. So there's our little fuse, and it comes with a spare fuse as well. Wobbly. Now you can see there's a seam line right down the center. Obviously that's why they supply the little rubber feet. I'll just stick those on here. It's heavy. It's a lot heavier than the KSGER. Must be a big transformer in there. And if that's the case, I'm thinking it probably isn't universal voltage, but we'll test it out here. Actually, I'm going to put these outboard a little more. Ooh, they stick good once they're on. There we go. No more wobble. Okay, I think we got everything here. I've got my little temperature tester. These things are awesome, by the way. The FG100s, they're only around $12 US. And no matter what soldering station you get, if you want to check the tip accuracy, these work really well. So, turn it on. Oh, something's happening. It's not happy because we don't have the handle plugged in, obviously. This is really nice, soft silicone high flex cable, by the way. And like I said, a DIN connector, not a GX aviation connector. Okay. Still not happy because we don't have the tip in. So we will put this K tip in. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is coming up to temperature extremely slow. Like I said, the benefit with these direct drive tips is 10 seconds from room temperature up to 350 is the norm. This is taking way too long. Oh, it's not even working. This station is definitely 220, 240. It won't work here in North America on our 110 wall outlets. Bummer. Not to fear, we've got it plugged into our 220, 240 volt adapter. Stick around though, we're going to open it up. Maybe there's a setting inside that you could change it to 110 or 120, but for now we've got it hooked up to this, so we will see if it comes up to temperature properly. There we go. That's a little more like it. Boom. Not quite as fast as the KSGER T12 though, but quick nonetheless. Notice this sponge that came with it. Once I hydrated it, way too big to fit in the little cup here. So we'll turn on the little FG100. I don't know if we can see that. I'm gonna have to pan down and zoom in on this little guy. There, 19.2, that's the room temperature right now. Station is still saying 350. Just gonna put some solder on this knife tip. So there's good heat conductivity to the sensor. So it's reading about 9 Celsius, 8 Celsius low, which isn't too bad. Let's just dial it up here. Oh, right, you need this silly key again. Let's go up to 380. We'll zoom into there. So stabilizing at about 372. So it's about, 7, 8 degrees Celsius lower than what's indicated. Maybe we'll try a different tip. Here's the beauty with these things. You can grab a hot tip and change them on the fly. Let's put in a what do we have here? A D16 tip. So here, this tip is overshooting quite a bit. Okay, I found the English manual online. I will link to it below in the description if you want the English manual as well. And yeah, there is an offset adjustment. Quickly showing the setting access on this thing. Like I said, to change the temperature, you have to put the key in and it will automatically start flashing the first, second, and third digits, and you just dial up or down. So this would be setting our temperature. So let's set this to 350. So there's our first value. Hit the star to take us to our second. I'm going to go to 5. And yeah, if you wanted to go 55, and there it's coming up. And once the key is in, you don't have to take it out. And if you wanted to change the temperature again, you just have to hold the star key in until the digit starts flashing, and then same idea. You can just dial these up or down as you wish. And hit the star again when you're done all 3, and it takes it back to normal operation. If you wanted to go into the offsets, if you wanted to calibrate your tips, again, you hold the star key in, but then you press the pound key, and that's where it'll take you into the offset. If you wanted to see what your offset is while you're in working mode, you just push the pound button in and it'll show the offset. And to get into parameter settings mode, you have to put the key in with it turned off, and then you hold the up and down at the same time, and then you turn the on button on the top. Okay, and this is where you can select between Fahrenheit or Celsius, but on this unit I can't change it. If I select Fahrenheit, which I have here, it will still show Celsius. So it looks like just 5 Phillips fasteners. Anyway, we'll get these 5 Phillips screws out. All the screws are the same length. Well built, solid. So yeah, huge transformer in there, and obviously 220, 240 volt operation. There's our control interface. There's a couple little calibration pots. Looks like a little microcontroller, but it's not an STM32. It's not a 32-bit processor like on the KSGERs. I should mention the switch activation is really nice. Really nice tactile, solid feel on the switches. The display, as we saw, was easy to read. What does that card reader go into? Oh, okay. Those little LEDs, they're obviously for this card. When you put the card in, it breaks the beam. So there's the board. Good looking job on it. There's the little tactile switches. Just have a 3-digit LED display on it. 951, V2, and 1. Hopefully that's focusing, you bastard thing. Yeah. So build quality is actually nice. Well, the switches are held in their own little bracket here. Oh, that was the other thing I never checked, is the tip ESD grounded. It says it is. So let's get our iron out. We will plug this in. There's the ground. It goes to the transformer and then to the ground pin on the power plug. Cool yet? Oh yeah. Oh. There we go. So it is ESD grounded, no problems there. So overall, good build quality. Biggest disappointment is I can't use it on my voltage. Son of a gun, it doesn't say 220 volts, 50 hertz. Doesn't show what the output is. 0 to 24 and then 0 to 9. Something's been rubbed off. That doesn't do us any good. Suppose we could power it up and probe these. Meter time. Put that in frame. This will be AC. 27 volts. What's this little guy do, if anything? 9.8, so 10 volt. So it's got two voltage outputs, 27 and 10. Interesting. Gonna get it back together and give you my final thoughts. I don't think I mentioned the wattage of the iron. It's 70 watts, and it's pretty standard for all these T12 stations. And 70 watts on these direct drive tips is actually equivalent to more than the slide-on tips because they are so efficient. As you can see, we're on a pretty big ground plane here that's sucking the temperature pretty good. And no problem flowing the solder across. So that works well, as we would expect. Actually, let's take a look inside. Okay, yeah, you're not happy. Let's just unplug this. So to get the soldering iron handle apart, it's very simple. Just unscrew the silicone or plastic end. This is what holds the tip pretty much. And then there's just a 3-prong connection inside, 3-contact connection. Just get the little silicone strain relief off and push out the guts. We might need something to help us along here. There we go. So it's just a little 3-tab connector. It's what your 2 power bands. This also back feeds for the temperature sensor, and then the upper one here is for your ground. But unlike the KSGER handle end, we've just got the 3 conductors here. We've got a positive and negative feeding the power, back feeding the temperature, and then we've got the white wire here, which is our ground. There's no motion switch in here, so this unit just has a timer to shut down. It doesn't have the wake up like the KSGER does. Wrapping up with my final thoughts on the little FX-951 clone soldering station. Pros, of course, it uses the direct drive technology soldering tips. And if you've never used a soldering tool with this technology before, you will be amazed at the performance. And it works well in that respect. Comes with a nice handle, the 9501. Always like that handle. The holder for it is really nice. It holds the handle well. You'll probably want a different sponge than what comes with it, or just get some brass shavings. The unit itself is built well, as we saw. It's not ideal. It doesn't have threaded inserts, but that's easy to overlook. It's solid. Circuit board was done up well. All the soldering looked really good. No problems there at all. It's got a nice, easy to read display. No nonsense. And it looks good. If you like the Hakko FX-951, you're obviously gonna like this copy. What I didn't like about it is user interface and menu access. To me, buttons, I'd so much rather have a dial just to dial the temperature up and down. It's so much easier than having to enter individual digits to dial up and down. Of course, this key is so aggravating. Now, I understand the reasoning behind something like this. These are used on assembly lines, and they don't want the operators messing with the temperature, so they have something like that to lock it out. But to me, there'd be a better way to do it, and I'm just going to open mine up and probably put something in between those two LEDs to block the beam so it thinks the key's in there all the time, because I can see this getting lost. The bigger problem though was the parameter settings, you know, having to press both these while you turn it on, having to remember that sequence, and then once you're in the parameter settings, you pretty much need the manual because it's not intuitive at all to what you're setting. You know, it's got the different fields and then the number behind the field. And as it turns out, I can't seem to adjust any of my parameter settings. I can access them, I can change them, but it doesn't take. As we saw with the temperature as one example, changed it to Fahrenheit, still locked in Celsius. If anyone else has got one of these clone FX-951s and you're watching this, I would love to know if they're all like that or if I've just got a dud in that respect. And last up is the transformer. This could be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it. A lot of people would argue having a nice big transformer like that is the better way to power a soldering tool like this. But at the same time, you can't have universal voltage if you've got a dedicated voltage transformer like that. Now, I'm not going to really call that a con. I knew that going into this, that it was the 220 volt version. I was kind of hoping it might work on 110, but as it turns out, it doesn't. And these are very hard to find, these clones in 110 volt versions. Seems most of them are all now the 220 volt version. Here in North America, yeah, it's certainly not the best choice. But if you live somewhere else in the world that's on 220, no problems there at all. Now, personally, my thoughts are if you're in the market for a budget T12 soldering station, you're still better off getting a KSGER. It's better value, it's got better performance, it's got a nicer and more intuitive user interface with the encoder dial. Easier to change temperatures, that type of thing. And of course, it's got the universal voltage power supply in it. So no matter where you live, you don't have to worry about voltage adapters or any of that nonsense. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what these little FX Clone 951 stations are all about. Again, I'll have a link below in the description if you wanted to look at the specs or check it out. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you next time. Happy soldering.